A show canceled as a financial disaster came back 25 years later and won a Peabody Award. By the end of this, you'll understand the exact mechanism at each stage: legal, financial, creative, institutional, that explains why Battlestar Galactica failed the way it did, and how it came back as one of the most respected shows in television history. A 1970s network show that drew 30 million viewers and still got canceled. A spin-off so strangled by regulation that its heroes ended up on flying motorcycles in suburban America. A lawsuit where a rival studio claimed the show had stolen a character named Luke, a character who does not appear anywhere in the series. 7 distinct institutional failures separate those flying motorcycles from that Peabody Award. A budget collapse, a legal war, a hype machine that shook theater ceilings, 2 failed revivals, and 1 creative team willing to destroy the original to save it. Only one of those 7 levels got it right.
Apollo, I have a funny feeling about this. Well, we came to look.
Level 1. The Earthbound degradation. The worst version of Battlestar Galactica wasn't made by amateurs. It was produced by the original network and studio, under institutional constraints that made failure certain before a single frame was shot. When ABC canceled the 1978 series, they faced an angry audience. Their solution was Galactica 1980. Budget cut to a fraction of the original. Under strict FCC and broadcast standards mandates, the show had to function as educational children's programming, could not depict violence against human characters, and needed measurable science content in every episode. The writers solved the violence rule with the stun gun, which disrupted cognition without physical harm. They solved the budget by setting the whole series on present-day Earth, cutting expensive space battles entirely. They solved the science mandate with the Super Scouts, Galactica children enrolled in an American elementary school, learning nutrition and ecology. Then came the flying motorcycles, turbine-powered warrior bikes capable of lift, the show's central action set piece, technically functional as a concept, completely severed from anything that had made the original matter. Every bad decision here traces to an institutional mandate, not a creative one. What comes next isn't failure through constraint. It's failure through deliberate financial engineering.
Thanks to your so-called intelligence reports.
Level 2. The Frankenstein Cutdown. Universal didn't recycle old footage for international markets because they lacked options. They did it because it was the most efficient way to extract cash from a property that was hemorrhaging money, sold to audiences who'd never seen the original broadcast. The 1979 release, Mission Galactica: The Cylon Attack, wasn't a film. It was standalone television episodes spliced together with a thin layer of new connective footage, then sold as a theatrical feature abroad. Those viewers had no reference point. The studio faced real losses, and a ticket sale beat a TV ad. Conquest of the Earth, released in 1981, went further. It combined footage from the 1978 original with footage from Galactica 1980, 2 productions with different budgets, clashing visual styles, and contradictory continuity. Actors aged visibly between scenes. Effects quality shifted mid-film. Narrative logic stopped functioning. Level 1 produced new content, however compromised. Level 2 produced nothing original. A tourniquet on a studio trying to stop the bleeding before it assessed the wound. Level 3. The Unsustainable Spectacle. The 1978 series wasn't canceled because it failed with audiences. It was canceled because, at its budget, success was economically indistinguishable from failure. The production cost over $1 million per episode, every week. Original visual effects, a large ensemble cast, full orchestral scoring, elaborate sets. The pilot, Saga of a Star World, cost $8 million alone. The network positioned it as a Star Wars-scale television event, and technically, they delivered. The audience responded, a rating above 20, roughly 30 million viewers by modern equivalency. CBS answered with surgical counter-programming, 60 Minutes, All in the Family, and Alice, all placed directly opposite it on Sunday nights. ABC ran the arithmetic. At $1 million an episode, even a strong rating didn't cover the advertising math. The show was simultaneously a ratings success and a financial catastrophe, and the second fact wins. This failure had nothing to do with the audience or the concept. The production model demanded more fuel than weekly network television could supply in 1978. What Level 7 eventually solved was exactly that problem: how to tell this story without that engine.
What's a warrior to do after he's lost the big one?
Level 4. The Legal Battlegrounds. 20th Century Fox sued Universal, alleging 34 distinct acts of copyright infringement. One claim was that Battlestar Galactica had stolen a character named Luke from Star Wars. There is no character named Luke in Battlestar Galactica. The lawsuit alleged systematic copying, the Cylon helmet design, the Viper fighter profile, the concept of a democratic civilization resisting a mechanical empire, even the visual grammar of the space battles themselves. Fox pursued it aggressively through federal court, and for a period, the outcome genuinely threatened the show's ability to keep airing at all. Level 3 was an internal collapse, the show consuming more than it could generate. Level 4 was an external legal assault on the property's right to exist at all, forcing resources into defense while confidence in the franchise kept eroding. Universal countersued, arguing Fox had itself borrowed from earlier science fiction when building Star Wars. The court sided with Universal, finding the similarities lay in shared genre convention, not protectable expression, but the momentum was already lost by the time the ruling came down. Battlestar Galactica had been caught at a legal boundary courts were only just learning to define.
How can you change one side of a bargain?
Level 5, the sensoround hype machine. Before a single episode aired on American television, Universal had already sold Battlestar Galactica as a theatrical event in Canada, Europe, and Japan, using a speaker system powerful enough to loosen plaster from theater ceilings. The pilot had cost $8 million, and Universal needed to start recovering that before the weekly series launched. Sensoround was a low-frequency subwoofer system, arrays of speakers producing vibrations audiences felt through their seats during battle sequences. When the Cylons attacked on screen, the air in the room moved, releasing the pilot internationally, in theaters, before the American broadcast put Battlestar Galactica at movie prices. In a movie-going context, in front of audiences who understood they were paying for something cinematic. Every level below this one describes institutional failure. Level 5 describes something different, genuine commercial power, correctly identified and deployed. The concept was never the problem. It sold out vibrating theater seats before the weekly series even existed. Level 6, the Lost Resurrection Wars. Richard Hatch mortgaged his home to produce a trailer nobody at Universal had commissioned, and it still wasn't enough. By the late 1990s, the property had been dormant nearly 15 years, with no series, no film, and no serious studio interest. Hatch, who played Captain Apollo in 1978, had spent years developing a direct sequel, grittier, more mature, same universe. He self-financed a trailer, Battlestar Galactica: The Second Coming, for roughly $20,000 and toured conventions in 1999 pitching it as proof of concept. Universal was already deep into a full reboot that would discard the original continuity and decline to engage. Separately, in 2001, director Bryan Singer and producer Tom DeSanto were in active pre-production at Fox on a series that would have preserved the 1978 timeline. Sets were under construction, writers were working. Then Singer left to direct X2, and September 11th happened. And a series about a civilization destroyed in a single catastrophic strike became, in that moment, impossible to continue responsibly. Hatch failed because the studio had already chosen a different direction. Singer failed because the world shifted in a way no production calendar could anticipate. Both believed the original timeline was worth preserving. The reboot that finally emerged treated that belief as exactly the wrong starting point.
I said break off the attack.
Level 7, the Golden Reimagining. Ronald D. Moore and David Icke didn't update Battlestar Galactica. They demolished it and built something structurally different on the same address. The 2003 miniseries and the series that followed kept 4 things: the name Galactica, the names Adama, Starbuck, and Apollo, and a fleet hunted through space. Everything else was rebuilt from first principles. The Cylons became biological, indistinguishable from humans, a fundamentally different premise than a mechanical enemy. The fleet used kinetic ammunition instead of energy weapons because a bullet in a metal corridor produces a dread a laser can't. The camera moved handheld, documentary style, with no clean compositional edges. It looked like footage of something actually happening. Starbuck became a woman, the clearest possible signal that this reboot wasn't honoring the original, it was interrogating it. This is where the open loop from Level 3 finally closes. The 1978 series was destroyed economically by a production model demanding $1 million an episode to sustain spectacle. Moore and Icke made the spectacle secondary to psychology instead. The episode 33, the fleet attacked by Cylons every 33 minutes for days, no sleep, no pause, generates its effect almost entirely through the faces of the cast. Director Michael Reimer banned makeup and ran grueling schedules to produce real, visible exhaustion. It costs almost nothing to achieve, and it's more effective than any battle in the original run. The result? A Peabody Award, critical recognition as one of the defining dramas of its decade, and academic treatment in political science programs for its allegories about post-9/11 civil liberties and military authority. A show canceled in 1979 as a line-item budget problem came back in 2004 as prestige television that expanded what the entire genre was allowed to attempt. Every level here shares one thing. The concept itself was never the failure. What changed at each stage was the institutional structure around it, the budget ceiling, the regulatory mandate, the legal threat, the cultural moment, and eventually, a creative team willing to risk destroying the familiar rather than protect it. Flying motorcycles of Level 1 and the Peabody Award of Level 7 came from the same property. What separated them was whether the people in charge were trying to preserve the franchise or were willing to risk destroying it. Here's the one worth arguing about. Does the Bryan Singer 2001 revival belong at Level 6, or does it actually rank higher, given it was the closest this franchise ever came to a genuine, well-resourced, continuity-respecting production? Make your case in the comments.